Hey, I'm so excited to talk today to our special guest, Annmarie Hatfield, who tied her career with helping families and uh, kids navigate the paths to higher education and college. I've been through it as a mom, and I'm still traumatized. I was telling Anne Marie about it because it's even when your kid knows exactly what they want to do when they grow up, it's not that easy when it comes to selecting the right college, finding the right track, finding the right resources to do it right. So I invited Anne Marie Hatfield, founder of College Inroads, to just tell us a little bit about her work and how she has been helping families with this uneasy task. Hi, Anne Marie. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks so much. I'm so excited to be here. Talk everything about college today. Good time of year to
Yeah.
do that with graduation, high school graduation right around the corner.
Yeah, that's a great time to start that. When do families usually start consulting you about college?
If I could wave a magic wand and get all of our clients all at once, it would be second semester of sophomore year, because
Mhm.
that really gives us the opportunity to lay the foundation. A good majority of the heavy lifting in our process happens starting junior year. So it's nice to start a little early, get comfortable. You have, resume and lots of different things that younger kids can do until it's ready to start with the heavy lifting.
Definitely. Looking back now, uh, you definitely don't have enough time in 1 year or one semester to do it all. But let's start from the beginning. Tell us more about College Inroads and how did it start?
Sure. So the company was founded by my business partner. His name is Michael Davila. He started it as a sole proprietor in 2009. He and I joined forces and we incorporated College Inroads in 2011. So we're about 12 years in. Um,
Wow.
he has an educational background. His father was an educator. My mother was an educator for 35 years. So kind of in the heart of our souls is that want of education. And he went to the Naval Academy as an undergrad and actually served on staff as an educator for the Naval Academy and kind of learned the the getting into college process from the inside out, if you will, from the university's perspective. And then when he left the Naval Academy, he became a financial planner and learned the financial aspect of the business. And then I brought in sales and marketing, and we teamed up really, really well. And it's like I said, we've been around for 12 years. So that 12 years went
Wow.
by like that very quickly. And
Do you see it as a pre-pandemic and mid-pandemic and post-pandemic, or was it kind of the same in terms of your
You know,
workload?
that's an interesting question. We used to have a physical office, and once COVID hit, we closed our office. We thought it was going to be for 6 months until this COVID thing kind of passed, and now we're 100% online. We work with. It's been very interesting for us because now we're able to work with clients all over the country. In fact, we serve the continent. So we have clients in Canada and clients in Mexico, clients all over the United States. And interestingly enough, 2020 was one of our best years. That was our best year up to date.
Mhm.
And we've been kind of on an upward trajectory since then. So, we liken it to the fact that, parents had a little extra time since they're not driving the kids to soccer practice or, picking them up after band. Moms and dads had a little extra time to start thinking about college and planning early.
Yeah, that was definitely a year, and that's when my daughter was going in college, and she actually didn't see her campus until her the end of her second year in college. So I can see how people would want to have some professional guidance when they couldn't go in person and the choices were so limited. So yeah, it was probably you probably helped so many families who would have been completely lost.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And, it was really, really difficult because the kids during the COVID ages when everything was shut down, you couldn't go visit a campus to see what the culture was like. In fact, to your point, a lot of kids who entered college during COVID couldn't even go to class in person. They sat in their dorm room and went to class online and didn't really
Mhm.
get that whole college experience. I mean, now that things have opened up, it's definitely different. But we always encourage a visit, and it was so hard during COVID. Luckily, the universities came up with workarounds, doing extra conversations with the admissions reps, and they were able to do a lot more virtual tours, virtual meetings, etc.
Mhm.
But we definitely encourage kids, if at all possible, to get on campus because every university is different. The kids form the culture, and we want the kids immersed in that culture to see how they feel in that environment. It's really, really important.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I come from Eastern Europe, and our colleges are more like it's just a building with classrooms. But here, campuses are almost entire towns. I know UT Austin has its own zip code. It's so
Yes.
big. So some people spend their whole day there. I visited the campus in Austin. I saw how people take naps in the hallways. So it's basically
Absolutely.
equipped to spend your whole day there, apart from maybe just sleep at night. So
Absolutely.
yeah, kids here spend so much more time on the campus, and
I mean, there's
especially if they're out of town, you know.
course, there's physical activities. Universities will have lazy rivers and rock climbing walls and a lot of social activities, especially to try to keep the kids on campus.
Hmm.
Part of that is because the closer the kids live to campus, the better they do in classes usually. And so the universities are trying to keep the kids on campus. So they
Hmm.
don't go home for 2 hours in between classes and then maybe not come back to campus. And so they try to come up with all of these great things to keep the kids fully engaged on campus.
Yeah, it makes total sense. And I wanted to ask you actually. So there are so many options now. Even if you know exactly down to the specifics of what career you want, and sometimes that's not the case. There are a lot of kids who go on with undeclared majors, but
Yeah.
um, how do you help families narrow down this sea of options that, because there are so many different colleges, in state, out of state, public, private, online education, other countries, like how where do you start?
Yep, that's a really good question. We have a system that helps families through this process. There are 2,406 four-year universities in the United States. We have 94 here in Texas, which is where I reside. And so there are a lot of options. We spend a lot of time with the kids, and we have a set schedule of meetings to help them figure out what to major in. Once we figure out at least the building in which they want to apply to on campus, we're really able to go through an extensive college search with the families. We include the parents in that conversation as well, because the parents more than likely are the ones that are going to be footing the bill, and they're potentially going to want to have some say in what the student's going to major in, and definitely where they're going to go. So we use a system that really puts all 2,406 four-year universities in the top of a funnel. And then we filter it down based on major. And then we filter it down by the criteria that the family set, things that are important to them. Is the school big or small? Is it close to home? Is it far away? Is it religious? Do we care about prestige? What about rah-rah football? Is climate a consideration? So all of the things that are important to the family go into this calculation. And then our educational consultants will take that list of 2,400 four-year universities, narrow that down to a much more reasonable 20 to 30 colleges that have the students major and fit their criteria. We also take that a step further and help the student figure out how to research a university, right? It's not just necessarily just going to the front page of the website, but how do we dig in to try to figure out the culture of that campus? And getting it down to that top, maybe 4 or 5 universities. And then from there, the students will go to visit. the schools that are at the top of the list. There really is a college for everybody. We worked with the valedictorians all the way down to the kid that is in the very bottom of his high school class and everybody in the middle. And that's probably the biggest message I want to get across today is that there really is a college for everybody. There really is. The kids at the top, the kids at the bottom, and everybody in the middle. It's just a
And
question of being open-minded because it might not be, the usual suspects, the UTs, the A&Ms, the Harvards, the Stanfords, etc. But there are lots and lots of universities out there who are very interested in all of the kids that are out there who are interested in going to college.
absolutely, you couldn't have said it better, because there are so many kids who, first of all, applying to university coincides a lot of times with this teenage turmoil where kids don't feel like they're up to the task. They feel that they can't handle it. It's too hard. It's too scary. And a lot of them feel very deflated when it comes to talking about colleges. Or maybe they have some career path in mind, but as you mentioned, prestige of the university might have nothing to do with that particular faculty and the amount of research that they're doing and the programs that they're offering. Sometimes it's this colleges out of nowhere that are the best, in the country for medicine, or the best in the country for electrical engineering. You wouldn't know that unless you spend hours and hours and hours of research, or you talk to a professional who can already say it in a few minutes.
Save lots of time and save lots of stress. We get that often from our clients. And that's why somebody would hire an educational consultant, which is technically what we're called. So really helps relieve that stress. And, you don't know what you don't know. And so I hire a professional to file my taxes because I don't want to go learn the tax law. And a lot of people will hire educational consultants just because we can definitely help save time, help save that stress, and to your point, uncover, some nuggets of gold that they might not have been able to find themselves. We get that a lot from our clients. I never would have thought to apply to this school. I'd never heard of that school before. And this school's been such a great fit for my students. So lots
Yeah,
of diamonds in the rough out there.
it's very valuable. And to your point about taxes, I've been thinking about that learning the tax law for 1 year is one thing, but keeping yourself updated, staying abreast of all the changes in the law and the rules and all the little exceptions is another, and completely another thing. And it's a everyday work, basically. So you've been around for 12 years almost. So, how do you stay abreast of all the changes, new resources, new colleges, new programs, and things like that?
It's such a great question because everything changes always. In fact, the SAT is getting ready to go fully digital as of March. The
Oh,
FAFSA, yeah, I know. The FAFSA is going through a simplification process at this point in time. And so,
you don't say.
yeah,
You're right time.
right? Two new nuggets that you might not have known previously. But
Wow.
we really do keep our thumb on the heartbeat of what's happening in our industry. We're a part of a couple of our national associations. And so we do, we go through continuing education training like everybody else in their industries go through. We all subscribe to newsletters. And so, on a daily basis, we get news about what's happening within our industry as well. So it's only going to help our clients make better decisions with the additional information that we have. And it's really important that we understand what's going on in our industry. So we spend a lot of time and resources doing that. Always want to be on the cutting edge of what's happening.
Yeah, and there are so many changes that one family just can't keep up with it, especially because this topic only becomes relevant once
Right.
in a blue moon, really, when it's that time for your kid to start applying. You don't prepare. Well, maybe some families do, and kudos to them if they prepare since their kid is like 3.
Right.
But usually they start preparing in high school and when it's already too late. So yeah, and it's so hard. FAFSA is no comment. So I'm glad that they're simplifying it. And speaking of FAFSA, of course, college it's an important decision. It's basically like marriage because you are committing to this relationship and it's a big financial undertaking. And obviously, affordability is a significant factor because it's getting more and more expensive every day. And now the economy is not doing great. So, how are you helping families with navigating the financial aspects of this?
That's such a great question because it's so much more expensive than it was, when most of us went to college. The average university is going to cost roughly 35,000 a year. That's on average, including publics and privates. But a school like UT is going to cost $27,000, right? That's more than 2 grand a month for most of us. That's an extra mortgage payment that we're going to have to pay. And so cost really, figures into the process, of course. We always talk about budget. In fact, another pro tip I would give anybody that's listening today, especially if you have younger kids, make sure you're talking to your kids about the budget, about how much money we're actually going to have as a family to spend on university. Because if we have a budget of 40,000 and we want to go to an $85,000 university, maybe families either don't want to or can't pay that amount. And so we don't want the kid to fall in love with a school that is not going to be financially feasible for the family. So in our college search meeting, that's definitely one of the questions that we ask is what's the budget? And what's the plus and minus? What's the over under? How high can we go? And then to your point, we do prepare and submit financial aid forms for all of our clients. Now, a lot of our families aren't going to qualify for need-based aid, depending upon the family's situation, but there's no downside to filing financial aid forms. In fact, sometimes it's a good idea for the universities to know that the families have the wherewithal and the funds to be able to pay for that student to go to that particular university. But all of our college searches really are put through the filter of affordability based on what the family thinks that they can afford. It's a big deal. Again, we don't want to fall in love with a school that's not going to be within the budget because that's a sad conversation at the end of the process. So let's talk about finances with the students early on, and give them an idea of what the parameters are, and then let's try to stay within those parameters.
Mm-hmm. And if a family is thinking about college tuition loans, should they speak to a lending company before they come to you, or should they speak to you first and then go apply and see if they
I
qualify?
would definitely start with us first. Absolutely. Let's figure out the list of schools that the student is planning on applying to, and then kind of work from that aspect. And then we're also going to want to wait until the end of the process once all of the financial aid award letters have come out,
Mm-hmm.
before we start talking about loans, because the university will send a letter. Usually, it used to be snail mail. Anymore, it's more likely via email or on the web portal that the university sets up for the student. But here's how much we cost. Here's how much money we're giving you. Scholarships, grants, etc. And here's what's left over for the parents to pay. And then that leftover number is the number that you're going to want to use when you're applying for loans. The federal government has a couple of loans. One is for the student called a Stafford loan, and
Mm-hmm.
one is for the parents called a Parent Plus loan. And so it's important to know how much the university is going to cost before we start applying for loans. And so that's why we wait until the end to do that, figure out what the actual cost is going to be.
Mm-hmm. It's good to come prepared to those meetings because those companies that a lot of times, I don't know if it's for all colleges, but it's usually only one company that's lending. I'm not going to say any names that's lending tuition. So you can't really shop around and it's pricey. Let's
Yeah,
say.
I will say there are some options. I mean, some community banks will lend on education loans. I mean, the education loans, there's a handful of private companies out there. that will still loan, but usually that's going to be a, a student loan with a parent co-signer,
Mm-hmm.
because the student more than likely doesn't have a credit, have a credit score at that point. And so, of course, the guarantor of the loan is going to want somebody to sign to say, well, if the student doesn't pay, then I will pay for them. But you're right. It used to be a pretty wide market of companies that would offer student loans for university. There's still a handful, but not near as many as there used to be, for sure.
Yeah, definitely. So it's probably the first consideration. Um, what's the budget? How much student loan do you want the child to have in the end?
Yeah.
Or should you pick a more affordable school if you are not sure that they will get, a degree that will give them a huge salary right off the bat? But even then, it's a big commitment, and
Yeah,
yeah, it's
it
one
is.
of the life-changing decisions, because as far as I know, student debt, you can't write it off even if you
That's
declare personal bankruptcy. So it's something that you decide
100%.
once and for all.
Yep. Yep, that's 100% correct. And so it's important for us to find the right academic fit for the student, but the right financial fit for the family as well. And what at the end of the day, after the scholarships and the grants and everything else that has come in, how much are you willing to pay at the end of the day? And what loans are going to be available for that? How much do you want to take out in loans? Things of that nature.
Hmm. For sure. Something that you mentioned earlier, I wanted to ask you more about. You said that now you're global, so you work with parents and students from all over the world. Do you consult them on American higher education, or do you help global families and American families find education abroad too?
Very interesting question. I would say most of the students that we work with are looking for schools in the U.S., but we have lots of kids that look abroad as well. And our clients in Canada are looking at universities in Canada, but they're more than likely also going to look at universities in the U.S. and the U.K., et cetera. So again, since we went 100% remote, we are able to serve clients all over. Most of the international students that we have either come from Canada or Mexico, but we do have some international students that we work with as well who live here in the U.S. as well. So, yeah, there are lots and lots of other universities as well in Canada and Mexico and in the UK and in every country. Most of the ones that we work with are in the UK and in Canada, but absolutely, we definitely serve international students. It's the same process. It's just there's different questions that we have to ask,
Hmm.
and a little bit of a different process, especially in terms of the financial aid piece. Some universities abroad will take a FAFSA and a CSS financial aid profile, which is another financial aid form that we complete for all of our students for the schools that require it. Some don't. So some universities are going to say, nope, we don't offer any, financial aid through FAFSA. And in fact, we're going to make you sign a letter that says you have the money to pay for university, or you're going to do this through loans. So yeah, we definitely have resources for that as well.
Yeah, I think for international students, it's even more important to have this kind of guidance, because they don't have the luxury of spending months on visiting campuses all over the US, or, just culturally, they might not know about a lot of things that are going on a different continent or in a different country. So,
It's
yeah,
so true.
if you're watching, highly encourage international students and families who are looking into the options in North America to consult College Inroads about your options.
Thanks.
And my favorite question to ask: could you share some success stories, some nice stories about how your work impacted the lives of families and students?
Of course, I have two in mind. One is a student that walked into our office with one school in mind. The student was only going to go to that one school.
Mhm.
And my business partner, Mike, was his educational consultant, and he had a very unique major. And there were only 7 universities in the United States and Canada that had that particular major. The
Wow.
student didn't want to go to visit any other colleges because he was going to this one school in Colorado. His mama dragged him on the airplane to go to Oklahoma to visit a couple of the schools that had his major. He stepped foot on the campus of the University of Tulsa, absolutely fell in love with it. And the school that he wanted to go to ended up being fourth or fifth down his list. He was very
Wow.
successful at that university. He was an ambassador. He was on the front page or the cover of the business magazine as a freshman. Got some really good internships, and it was a really amazing experience for him. In fact, right after that happened, his mom sent us a copy of that magazine with him on the front. And the caption on the bottom that she had put in the frame was "College Inroads Changes Lives." And that's the whole reason why we do this, is because, to your point earlier, this is probably the most important decision a student's going to have to make to their life to date. And it is, a very expensive proposition for the families, because university is going to be more than likely the second most expensive undertaking a family is going to go through besides retirement, if you will. And so there's college for everybody. And even if you only have one school in mind, just make sure that you're exploring all of your options. Um, Another good success story of ours was a student who was 480th out of 500 in his class. And so he was towards the bottom of his class, but he got into 4 of the 6 schools that he applied to, and he got a nice $20,000 scholarship to go to the University of the Incarnate Word in San Antonio, Texas. We worked with a couple of the siblings in that family, and the mom told me that university took a kid who hated school. And I think he graduated from graduate school just last year or so. It's just amazing, those types of stories. Again, that's the whole reason why we do this.
Wow. It's uh, it's really touching. It made me tear up because I have a college age student, my daughter, and college is probably this last support from your family nest that's really important in their entire future life, and you just want to do it right, because we unfortunately, everyone heard of those stories where the kid was forced into college or into a career they didn't like, and they, in the end, it didn't work out, or they didn't get enough guidance and they made a choice of
Yeah.
emotion or youth, and then they just ended up with debt that didn't justify what they were doing. So it's so important to do it right and just help your kids achieve more. And even if they are the last student in their high school, they can still be the best graduate in college. So it can change their destiny. So,
Absolutely true. And by picking the right university, you might save some time and save some money, because on average it takes 5.5 years for a student to get through a 4-year university. And so most families come in thinking, I'm only going to have to go to school for 4 years. I'm only going to have to pay for 4 years of university. And a lot of times that's not right. It's not true. And so helping them find the right fit, that actually is the right fit for them, is really, really important, because that really saves a lot of time and can save a lot of money as well.
absolutely. So, to wrap up, I would talk to you forever. I have a 3-year-old, so we'll be talking in 10 years. I
Let's start
guarantee.
saving for college now.
Oh yeah, we should have started when he was born. But yeah, and how can families start working with you? What's the first step to reach out?
Yes, absolutely. I would encourage anybody that wants to chat with us. We do offer a free consult. And so if you have high school students who are college bound, who are interested in going to college, feel free to reach out to us. We're more than happy to talk about your individual family situation, tell you a little bit more about our process, and then see if we might be a good fit for you. You're always welcome to go to our website, www.collegeinroads.com. Feel free to fill out the contact us form, and then our salesperson, Anna, will reach out and get some time on the calendar. On our website as well, we have some really good resources there too. So I encourage you to explore, click all the buttons. Yeah, and we would love to meet with anybody who is interested in talking about their kids going to college.
Thank you, Annmarie. Thank you for the beautiful mission that you're a part of. And thank you for helping so many families to start a brighter future.
Thanks so much. I really appreciate the time being here. Thank you so much for what you do for the organization.
Thank you.